Good afternoon. Today is October 24th, 2014. My name is Edna Sussman. I'm a reference librarian here at the Half Hollow Hills Community Library in Dix Hills, New York. We are interviewing Mr. Arthur Noskin, a Korean veteran, as part of our Veterans Testimonial Project and in collaboration with the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. Thank you so much, Art, for your service and for being here today and participating in our project.
My pleasure.
Art, where and when were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York, February 1st, 1930.
And your parents, who were they and what did they do?
My father immigrated from Russia, Minsk, back in 1902. My mother from Vilna, at that time was Lithuania, in 1906. My mother worked in a knit good factory as a sewer and then as a bookkeeper, and my dad had his own plumbing business. Very small business.
And who were your siblings, their names and gender?
I have two brothers, Harold Noskin, who lives in Florida.
Currently? No.
Yes, he's 5 years older than me, and Robert Noskin, who lives in Florida, he's 5 years younger than me.
Did any of them, either of them serve in the military?
No.
What were you doing before you entered the service?
I was going to NYU at night, and I had my own trucking business. At that time, it was 2 trucks.
What, you were studying for a bachelor's, undergraduate?
Yes, Bachelor of Science.
Now, which branch of the military were you in?
United States Marine Corps.
And were you drafted or enlisted?
I was drafted.
What happened when you departed for training camp and during your early days of training? What was that like?
Well, when I was drafted, I think it was 44 Whitehall Street in Manhattan, and a sergeant from the Marine Corps asked for volunteers, and 6 men stepped forward to volunteer, and then he said he needs 6 more, and everyone froze, including me, and I was number 6.
Oh.
When I came home, and my home in those days, the second home was the pool room, and I told my friends I was in the Marine Corps, they couldn't stop laughing. A Jewish kid from Brooklyn in the U.S. Marine Corps. And then I caught a train at their direction. I went to Paris Island.
What year was that?
1951. Went to Paris Island for basic training. And the first night off the train, the lieutenant treated us very nicely, the whole group. And we had a nice dinner and nice beds. He told us how to make the bed. Where he would be dropping a quarter and it had a bounce. And then the fun began, as you see in the movies. They shaved your head.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
They shaved your head. Well, the whole concept was to bring you back to the beginning. We are your parents, and whatever we say, you don't question. That's what it's going to be. No question, you do it. And you do it the right way. You do it the correct way. The best way that anyone in the world can do. And we are your mother and your father. And they get the idea through. It makes a Marine.
Wow.
I spent, I think, 12 weeks there. And then
Where was that again?
Paris Island, South Carolina, near Beaufort. I recently visited there. They have a museum there last January.
How did it look familiar?
They let anyone go in there now because they have a museum. And I said to the sentry, where are the tents? And he looked at me like I came from Mars. He said, what tents? I said, oh, never mind. I get to the museum and there's a light colonel walking. And I said to him, where was the tents for the... He says, when were you here last? I says, in 1953. He says, there's nothing here that was in 1951 except the monument of the Marines raising the flag in Okinawa. Iwo Jima.
Wow.
And it was an experience, but it was nice. As I was walking in the museum, there was approximately 200 female Marine rookies, not rookies, what do you call them? Inductees or
Okay, yeah.
and every one of them, as they passed me, said, "Good afternoon, sir." Good afternoon.
Nice, nice. Well,
It was a good feeling. From there, I went to Camp Pendleton. That's in Oceanside, California, for more training and mountain training, cold weather training up in the high mountains near Reno, in California. I guess it's the Sierras. And then I was transported to Korea
how, by
by
boat?
boat, by ship. It took about a month. And I
Really?
was supposed to be 3 weeks to a month. And I was supposed to be in the motor division, but the Marine Corps, everyone's an infantryman when needed. When I got there, it was needed. Marines were needed on the front line. And once you get on the front line, you have experience. It's hard to get off the front line.
Oh, they want to keep you there.
Well, you're an experienced fighter. And I was in Korea in cold and hot weather. We were in trenches. And there's some memories that still haunt me.
Really?
Yes.
Well, before we are able to address any of that, just can you recall your instructors and what they were like at the training, during your days of training?
They were drill instructors, and they were hard, as I said, for a purpose. They were trained to be hard, and sometimes they punished you, whether you deserved it or not, to show you. You have to take orders from them. And the training, we used to get up 4 in the morning and do calisthenics, and a lot of rough training.
Wow.
A lot of rough training. And then we graduated, and it was a good feeling.
Did you get specialized training for anything?
No, not really, just the motor division, because my history was that I was going to school at night, and I was driving trucks in New York,
I see.
so they put me in that. But that carried on later on in my tenure with the Marine Corps.
What, the driving?
Yeah. The second time I was there, they put me in the motor corps, and we drove supplies to the front line. I remember it was, you couldn't put your lights on. You had to drive in the dark. Well, you didn't want to attract the Chinese. And
What do you mean the second time you were there? Second?
I was there, I got hurt, I went to Japan, to Yokosuka, to the hospital, then I went back. It's on the service record.
Right, well,
But anyhow, when I went back, I was able to get into the motor corps and drive the truck on platoons, I remember, because sometimes some of the Marines couldn't manage the platoons at night, and the trucks were on the side in the river. I remember that scene. And one of the scenes I can't forget is when I was bringing supplies.
well, maybe later. So, how did you feel about adapting to the military life, the barracks, the food, and the social?
Well, the social was good when I was in California, because when they gave me time off, which they did, I hitchhiked to Los Angeles, to Hollywood, Beverly Hills Hollywood section, or to San Diego or Tijuana. Tijuana was open, it wasn't drug infested like it is now, and it was good times there. It was hard training, different type of training, because you didn't have a drill instructor, beating on you. But that was good times, socially. Food, I thought, was pretty good. The Navy took care of us with food at times, and they had good chefs.
How long was the training? How long were you in training?
Well, I was in Paris, I think it was 10 or 12 weeks. I really can't remember. I could refer to the service information I gave you. It indicates where you were at each particular time.
Okay.
So, to refresh my memories, I'd look at this and read
Okay.
it. You asked me about the food and social, and the training was primarily to kill, to be in the infantry, and
So they taught you how to shoot a gun and...
Well, eventually I ended up with a BAR, which is a Browning automatic rifle, which wasn't one of the better weapons to carry because you were keyed in by the Chinese because they released so much ammunition at one time compared to a rifle. Rifle was sick. This was like a machine gun. So if you were the Chinese, who would you try to get out of action first? Someone that's shooting multitudes of bullets at you, or someone that's singularly? So you're targeted. It's called a Browning automatic. It happened to be a good weapon.
So you served in Korea,
Yeah.
and and you were on the front lines.
Yeah.
What kind of combat action? What did that involve?
Well, we were in trenches on one side, and there was no man's land in the middle, and the Chinese were in tunnels on the other side. And I remember in the daytime, the Chinese didn't exist. At night, they came out, and our planes would come over. If it was in the summer, I'd lie down on a tank and watch the planes come and drop bombs. And didn't do much. They had cities under there, really, all the avenues. And the idea was to show them that we were still awake and watching them, so they had outposts, hills, in between their line and our line. And we'd go up to the outposts, and the Chinese were watching us, and they tried to eliminate us. And there was an area where they were really keyed in between trees, and we had to go through there to get to our outpost, where we had dug foxholes, and they were really keyed in. And as we ran, I remember one time I was running as they were shooting, and my helmet popped off, like you see sometimes in football. And as I'm running, the helmet popped off and bounced up. I caught it and put it back on my head and continued to run. And that was kind of dangerous, really.
Sounds very frightening. I mean, I guess, do you think about that? Do you think about that as a young person? And
yeah, I think about that, and I think about while one time I was standing and waiting to go through this, among other times. I'm just saying this one, and down below was the mess hall, which the mess was 55-gallon drums where they heated up and put the food on top of it so you have hot food. And I'm standing waiting for my battalion to move on, my company, and I'm looking down there, and there was an outhouse. And I saw a Marine go into the outhouse, and he never came out. A bomb hit him.
oh my God!
And I can't forget that.
Sure.
I can't forget that.
Did you know him?
No.
Wow, awful.
Anyhow, there's nothing nice about war.
No. Did you develop a camaraderie and friendships with the people in your
While
group?
I was there, yeah, but
Yeah.
no, when I broke away, about 3 years ago, someone who was in my basic training lived in Merrick. We got together for lunch, but other than that, no.
So did your unit move around, or I guess you had to move around to stay safe, but
Yeah, we had on the line, then we were able to go back of the line to our tent where we had our belongings and such, and it wasn't constantly there. I mean,
Okay.
it broke
Moved
down.
broke down,
This type
moved.
of war. This was as an analogy, it was something like World War I. We were in trenches, like the Germans and the British and the Americans at that time.
did most of the fighting happen in the nighttime? No,
Mostly the nighttime.
really?
Yeah, one incident, I did hear bugles that you saw in one of the motion pictures in Hollywood put out, and you'd hear the bugles, and thousands of enemy soldiers would be running at you, coming at you, and you'd shoot to save yourself and maintain the line. You didn't want to go backwards. Your job was to stay there.
What was the distance between?
No, it was quite a distance. As I said, there was no man's land in between. I guess a couple of miles.
Oh,
Just purely a guess. Maybe 3 miles, maybe 2 miles.
So you said you were injured. How did that happen?
That was not because of fighting. We had R&R, I don't know, once a month or something. We'd go back to the battalion, and the Marine Corps gave you 3 options. Either go to the church of your selection, read the Marine Corps manual again for the umpteenth time, or play a sport. And they were playing touch football. And it was a tall Swedish American that caught the ball, and I was running after him like the devil to try to touch him before. And I went like this, and I broke my left wrist.
Ah.
So we played cards that night in a tent, and I was the dealer, and I happened to be winning for a change. And my hand was blowing up. I said, I can't, I'm left-handed, I can't do anything. Oh no, and they gave me an ice bucket to put my hand in, so they had an opportunity to get some of the money back. They wouldn't let me quit. The next day it was bad, really bad. And I went back of the lines. I got permission to go back on the lines. I was taken back to the lines to a Quonset hut type of hospital. Mm-hmm. And they took x-rays of my wrist. And they said, you're going back to the lines because it's only a sprain. A sprain would do that. I says, I don't know. I don't want to question the doctor. I'm not a doctor, but that doesn't sound right. And as I'm walking through this long corridor to this Quonset hut, I see a doctor walking the opposite way. And of course, I have the x-rays with me to give back in the front. And I said, sir, and I give him the background. He says, come in my office. He says, you don't have a sprain. You got a chip. You got a chip in your wrist. He says, that'll take a long time to heal.
Oh, my God.
And I remember being there and had to get a signature that they took my BAR away.
The rifle.
Yeah. And then I was on the I can't think of certain words. The hospital ship in Incheon Harbor, when everything hit the fan. I'm telling you, the Marines were coming in wounded and parts of their bodies missing, and they were much more important than me. Obviously, they were. So the ship remained there as a floating hospital for quite some time. And by the time I got to Japan, they took more x-rays, and they said, geez, you heal fast. You're healing pretty quickly. And they assigned me, instead of getting on a plane and going to California, they assigned me to a hospital. And in the hospital was
Where? At which?
Yokosuka, Japan.
Uh-huh.
It was a naval hospital. You have to realize the Navy takes care of the Marines a certain way.
Oh.
You go to some functions, and it'll say U.S. Navy and U.S. Marine Corps. It's part of the same unit, sort of. Because the Marines are the enforcers on the ships.
I didn't know
The
that.
Navy takes care of the medical for the Marines.
I see.
The Marines could graduate out of Annapolis, like the Army can graduate out of West Point. The Annapolis is the Navy.
I see.
Have you ever been there?
Yes.
Annapolis is a beautiful town, beautiful campus.
It is beautiful. We used to live in Maryland.
Oh.
It's nice.
I do trips now, and that's on my list. Anyhow,
So how long were you on the hospital ship?
I must have been on there a month. I can't remember entirely, but then I was in a hospital in Japan for about 2 months.
Wow.
And I was in a motor division there, and then they shipped me back to drive the truck to the lines.
Oh, so you had all healed. It was all healed.
Yeah, and I healed, and they sent me back, and I got into this motor company. I was driving supplies to the lines, and one day I went to my area, and I said, my God, I still got belongings in a tent. And I went to the tent, and I saw body bags, and it was some of my company that I knew.
Wow.
And that doesn't leave me.
No, I can't imagine it would. Wow. When the war ended, so you got there in 51.
Yeah, I think it was November. I stayed till, excuse me,
Sure.
let me reread it. I got to Camp Pendleton, then I got to Oceanside, then I got to December 19th,
You-
1951.
When you arrived in Korea?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was on the ship to Korea, one or the other. And then I came back in September 2nd, 1952.
52. Where were you when the war ended? I mean,
In Brooklyn. The war ended. Still an end. They're still trying to make peace.
right. Well, that's true.
Well, let's get it right. It was a police action. It wasn't a war. And I think it was 2 days ago, some North Koreans were shooting at some South Koreans.
Yeah.
I went back to Korea twice.
Really?
Yeah. On business. And I sold some materials there. And I went to the monument they erected for the Marine Corps and the ROK, Republic of Korea Infantry. And they have this museum or outpost built on a hill, modern building, and I overlooked. And I got very emotional because I saw the area where I was actually in a
course.
hole in the ground from there.
Of course.
No, I was there twice since.
Visiting. On business.
On business, yeah.
Now, you returned home on a ship, right?
No, by plane to California.
Or by plane?
I think so. You know, some of my memory is gone.
It's
Don't
great.
forget, it's
Fine.
65 years ago.
It's-
Almost 65 years
Right.
ago. And certain things I try to retain, and I think, and it's just a blank.
That's fine. Your memory is terrific. How were you received by family and the community when you came back?
I definitely flew in from San Francisco. I was on Treasure Island. That's where either I landed or a ship came in. Maybe a ship. And stayed there for about, 3 or 4 days. And then flew to Quantico, Virginia, where I got my discharge. And then I flew to LaGuardia. And at that time, there was just a fence, and people could stand at the fence, and the plane landed, and the steps came down, and you walked out. And the plane landed. I kissed the ground, which was always in my mind. And at that time, I had a girlfriend, which never worked out, but I used to. That's the way I corresponded.
Yeah, how did you keep in touch with?
Just by mail with
Mail.
my mother and my girlfriend. My mother was just about every day, and my girlfriend, from memory, was about every third day.
And
I
they
used to
lived
write.
in.
Oh, and I used to play chess by mail. My buddy was in the army, and that took about a year to complete, but I won.
Nice, nice. What a good idea.
No, it's one step at a time. We didn't have faxes and internet and cell phones.
So the time between moves was, what, a couple of weeks?
Yeah, about a week or so. He was stationed in Seoul, so it worked out.
Where were you stationed?
On the front
On the
lines, near
front lines.
Panmunjom.
Okay.
The area is Panmunjom. I was northeast of it. And my right flank was the Turks, who happened to be very good fighters. And the ROK on my left flank, who happened to be not such good fighters. This is my opinion.
What, ROK?
Republic of Korea.
I thought it was something else. Okay. So, how about adjusting to civilian life?
I think my experience in the Marine Corps, not that I was a pussycat before, made me a harder person. It really did. And my mother saw it, and she said, Artie, what's wrong with you? You know, you're not the Artie that went away. And I don't know if I ever lost her. I'm still hard. Or maybe I'm not trying to rationalize or give it an excuse for my personality, but I think it made me hard to somewhat, put it that way.
Well, to see
Part of the puzzle.
to see what you saw, I mean, to get through it, I would imagine you need to develop some sort of.
Well, this is a whole big picture. This is just one piece of the puzzle.
So when you came back, you stayed with your family, and
Yes.
did you go back to school, or?
Yeah. Then I went back to school in the day, no, at night, and it took me 6 years to get a degree.
What was it in, the degree?
Bachelor of Science, majoring in marketing
Oh.
and advertising. And prior to the Marine Corps, I was getting letters from the university saying if I don't do better, they're going to throw me out. When I came back from the Marine Corps, I was a different person. And I just hit the honor list every single semester.
Wow, terrific. Huh. So you were in, so what job did you, what did you start working in after college?
That, I went back to the trucking business for a while, and my older brother came in as a partner. And then we sold the business, which we never got paid for. And then I needed a job. I had a wife, and I just bought a house in Wantor. And my younger brother arranged for me to get a interview with a very small chemical company. I says, I don't know anything about construction, chemicals for construction, commercial. And I said, he says, what have you got to lose? So I went there, I got interviewed, and they gave me $35 a week. That would take care of my gas and my expenses. In other words, they gave me nothing. It was all on commission, because their attitude is, what else I got to lose? And in 6 months, I was the top salesman. A year and a half, I was making more than the three partners put together.
Wow.
Made a lot of money.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And it was too much for them. And they said, boy, should they give me all that commission? And they started to cut my territory, cut my commission, charge me for samples. So I went to business myself. I built a business, a chemical business.
Oh.
And in 2005, I retired, and I gave it to my son.
All right, have you remained in contact with any fellow vets? You said no.
I just recently joined the Jewish War Veterans.
Oh, nice.
And when I was there, I was told that those who were in combat in Korea during the period of the war fill out a form, because the Korean government wants to honor you with a medal.
Oh.
And they will check it out. So I don't care, let them check it out. So I gave it to them, and they said, you'll get this medal April or May of next year, 2015.
Nice, nice.
The Koreans, American Koreans on Long Island, annually have a ceremony on the Vets Highway in Hauppauge, you know, where the memorial is?
Yes.
And they set up tents, and they have long lines of American and Korean food.
Oh, nice.
And they honor us.
Very nice.
And you see some of these veterans, and then I'm very, very grateful. Some of these guys are still in bad shape.
Wow. From their injuries, you mean?
From the war, yeah.
Wow.
Well, no, I shouldn't say that, because I didn't question them. Maybe they got sick because they got older. But some of them were in bad shape. Some were in great shape.
Yeah. What? So you're a member of the Jewish War Veterans? Any other veterans organizations?
No, as I say, I go to this.
Yeah.
Not really. Not the American Legion.
Veterans of Foreign Wars?
No. I don't know. I got out of the Marine Corps. I shied away from it. And just recently, I said, all right, because I went to a couple of the sessions, and they said, boy, aren't you joining and all? So I said, fine, I'll join. And I joined.
Nice. How often do you meet regularly? Or?
They meet once a month.
Oh, yeah.
I also, I use the Vets Hospital at Northport.
Oh, yeah.
And I know the controversy that's going on. They were very good, and I'm using them for a long time. And they're a good organization.
Great.
I don't know what happened to Phoenix, but to me, I rate them very high.
Good.
Very high.
What have you done since, since separating from the military? You said you were in the chemical.
Yeah, well, right now, one of the products is the cushion safety port-in-place flooring for playgrounds, around amusement parks, and that's why I travel all over the United States, because it involved a urethane adhesive and colored rubber. Some of the rubber was synthetic and some came from tires. And it was a sort of a new product, and I had to teach people how to apply it. So when I sold it in Saudi Arabia or the Emirates or in Bangladesh or Hong Kong, I could go through 93 countries because I've been to 93 countries.
Wow.
I didn't sell it in all those countries. I had to go there.
Wow. For the company you worked for, or when you had
I
your
owned
own?
the company.
When you had your own
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
Wow.
I made it into an international business.
Amazing.
And I still have some friends in Italy and Israel and
Nice.
Hong Kong.
How do you think your wartime experiences affected your life?
Well, other than bad memories at times, don't forget that, there's 365 days to a year. I'm not thinking of it all the time,
Sure.
every once in a while. I think it helped me business-wise because taught me you can't procrastinate and how to do a job, whether it's to protect the country or protect yourself. And I think that had some value to it. There's gray spots. Everything isn't really all good and all bad.
Right.
And there was value there. I think so. It was learning how to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Government does a good job. It wasn't completely bad, no.
Those are the good life lessons.
Yes, yeah, thank you. That's a good way to say it. Thank you.
How has your military service impacted your feelings about war and the military in general?
Well, Revolutionary War, everyone says it was necessary. We were left alone in 1776, until 77, and they started to tax us, they being the British. So maybe it was justified. Prior to that, they let us live our own lives on a new continent. So I lean to saying that was justified. The War of 1812, I don't know, everyone says, we actually lost that war. We think we won it, but we lost it. Were there many people killed because of it? Well, everyone's important if there was one person. And I don't know if we had to show strength. I'll put that as a question mark. Civil War was a necessity, and that was a bad one because we were killing each other.
Mm-hmm.
The War of 1898, no way was that justified. No way. We wanted to grab land.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, they blew up the Maine. Let's go get him, Teddy, who I think was a great president.
Mm-hmm.
But World War I, again, I don't think we were endangered. I don't think the Prussians wanted to come to the United States. Does that make me an isolationist? No, I'm not an isolationist, but I don't want to see one person get killed for no reason. Korean War, no way. And I resent General MacArthur. I am not a fan of his because he killed indirectly many, many Marines in a Chosin. He didn't have to go there. The Chinese weren't going to... He wanted to conquer China, in my eyes. And a lot of Marines wounded and killed and frozen. Vietnam War, absolutely not. We should
What
not
about
have
World
been
War
in it.
II? We missed that one.
Well, World War II, well, actually, they declared war on us,
True.
technically.
Right.
The Germans and the Japanese. So you have to defend yourself. So I was justified. Then the second reason is, too, they were killing millions of minorities and gypsies and Catholics and Jews, and we're high on the echelon of democracy and good people. So I think that was justified. I think it is justified. I skipped that war, you're right. And where are we? Up to Vietnam?
You got to Vietnam.
No way was that justified. No way. No way. It's terrible. And I came to believe that the kids, the college kids that didn't want to go and get killed for nothing ran to Canada. At one time I said, the cowards, they're terrible, and used other words that I don't want to say here. And then as I got older, I said, why kill yourself for someone? Like, justified wars, yes. Where do we go? Iraq? Completely. That's my opinion. Kuwait? Again, I'm talking about full justification, not for oil being the reason we wouldn't have energy. That's far-fetched. And where are we today? Afghan, well, yeah, they killed 4,000 of our people in Manhattan and Washington and indirectly in Pennsylvania. And yeah, I would have gone into Afghanistan. But I would have gotten out as soon as I could, boy, I'll tell you. Maybe that's not the best military decision, but that's what I would do.
Thank you. Very hard. What is there anything that you regretted during your service? Anything you didn't do?
Well, I didn't really see life. Don't forget, I was only 20, 21.
Wow.
I didn't see life, so I didn't know, pardon me, I didn't know what I missed. I did hitchhike across the United States a year or two before that, back and forth, so I got to see the country a little for a couple of months. But again, I didn't have the whole scope of life, so I don't know. I don't know if I miss my friends, so I got new friends in the Marine Corps when I was a kid.
Yeah, young, very young. What message would you like to leave for future generations who will view this interview?
That all the nations in this world should not make any weapons that could kill people and learn how to speak to each other. You can solve things by talking to each other. You don't need something to throw up in the air and bomb and kill or maim 3 or 4 people.
It's a good
so
message.
if we all in the world stop making weapons of any kind, then we'd have to talk.
It's a good message. Is there anything else you feel we haven't discussed, or would you like to add to the interview?
Hey, I'm happy to be alive.
We're happy you're here. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you
Thank you,
for
Art.
coming here and taking your time.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.